Hello and welcome to Movie Film Studios, the only podcast that takes you inside the mind of two film studio executives as we unravel and then re-ravel the best that Hollywood has to offer. I'm Isaac.
And I'm AJ, and this week we snorted various substances in an attempt to forget about the rigours of a totalitarian, extraterrestrial government who are hunting down a reclusive but endearingly charming cowboy in the Wild West. But before we get into something new, it's time for something old as we check in on our last feature in Box Office Report. Now, last episode we released the art house Latin translated from Italian film La Sidicima Cappella.
Which is the 16th chapel. I'm glad you said the title in Italian this week because I did not remember, which I think you kind of also partially forgot exactly how to say 16. Yep. The success or failure of this film is a really difficult metric to measure. And that's mainly because it did not earn us any money at all. No. Not a red cent. But it was the darling of the critics.
Yep.
It went through it. We have so many laurel leaves and that like you could build a straw house out of it for a small piglet, but just no money coming in.
Yeah.
And I thought, we're going to make this pretentious film, this, award-winning film. Everyone's going to love it. Everyone's going to say that the performances are, once in a lifetime.
Yep.
You have to go see it.
Yep.
It'll move you to tears.
Yep.
But the one thing that moved me to tears was the fact that our bank balance didn't shift one iota. And I'm like, this is a labor of love to put these films together.
Yep.
And I realized very, very early on is what I love is money. and I'm just not into this art housey stuff at all.
No. Don't worry about this. There is a silver lining to this whole sorry tale, and I'll tell you what it is. You know the film Blade Runner?
I do.
Right? Now, when Blade Runner came out in 1980, whatever it was, no one liked it. No one saw it. Critical and commercial flop. Cut to 2018. There's been maybe 7 different versions of that film cut. It is one of the most highly regarded films of all time. Part of the syllabus in high school when I went through it as well. It was a mandatory text. So it came back. It came back around. It became this thing that was you have to go and see it. And that's exactly what's going to happen to our film. To that end, I've actually prepared in advance the 10-year anniversary re-release, the 20-year anniversary re-release, and the 50-year anniversary re-release. Because the problem with those re-releases in general is that all the stuff that they want for those DVD releases and the Blu-ray releases go missing.
Right.
But the thing is, I've done it now. I've got all the stuff
that
now
is
here.
Very, very smart.
I've remastered the film in 24K because I'm assuming by 50 years' time, 4K will just be dial-up internet to the eyes of the viewers back then. So the film's already done. It's ready to go. So when it reaches critical mass, when it becomes this film that you need to see, we're ready. And we're ready to capitalize. So it's going to be a bit of a long burn in terms of the financial recoupment of our costs. But man, when it comes back around, it's coming back hard.
This is the cleanest cutting room floor you've ever seen because AJ's just there picking up every single scrap.
Every scrap. Everything has been beautifully digitized as well in 24K. Every single possible minutia of it. I've even done the notable director interviews.
Right.
I've had to predict who are going to be the notable directors 50 years from now.
Right.
But
I mean,
I've done it. They're ready to go.
So we've got the anniversary. Do we also have director's cuts?
Of course. Yeah,
absolutely.
Re-releases, director's cuts, final director's cuts.
Extended the DVD or Blu-ray or whatever versions they happen to be.
Exactly. Producer cuts as well, because the original producer cuts are always great to see. And of course, original theatrical will be there as well.
Is the original theatrical one then, are we saying this is the one where the producers meddled with it and didn't make it as good as it could possibly be?
No, what we're going to do is every anniversary of this film coming out will be the new ultimate version of it until we get to the 50-year one, which is the ultimate, ultra, final, this is it, nothing else is happening, a la Blade Runner, which had, as I think, 7 different versions, and at least 3 of them were director's cuts. So, that's what's going to happen. But they're all prepared. They're all prepared. They're all ready to go.
In the vault.
No work needed to be done. We just when they're like clamoring for the film to be re-released, we'll be there.
Yeah, exactly. Well done. Good forethinking. I like that.
Yep.
I'll still sit here, watch the bank account, and the moment it starts ticking over again, I'll be happy. But I'll have to wait 10 years apparently.
You will, at the very least. All right, on to this week in trailers, and first trailer for you today is Captive State, directed by Rupert Wyatt. And starring John Goodman, Vera Farmiga, and other actors. And looks to be a bit of a dystopian science fiction, possible alien invasion film.
It's not terribly clear. It's a whole bunch of shots. It's like, in the future, there is no crime. And then you see like the military rounding up all the criminals. In the future, there is no poverty. And there's a whole bunch of people who live in, luxury. And then there's still an underbelly that no one sees. In the future, there is no unhappiness, and you see them all sort of taking drugs, and it's like, let's all praise our overlords. And then you kind of get a sense of an alien spaceship flying over the top.
Yeah, over the top of a stadium.
And that's it. That's the trailer.
That's the whole trailer.
It's a supercut of this sort of weird dystopian, what if the future was like this? And then at one point, you see what could possibly be the top of John Goodman's face, covered by a gas mask. And I'm like, could that possibly have been John Goodman? Our researchers said, yes, it was.
It was, yep.
But his role in the film, we have absolutely no idea.
Unclear. He looks like he could be some kind of important, maybe military brass. I don't know. He looked like he was wearing some kind of coat that military people wear. Rupert Wyatt, though, the director, has sort of got pedigree in this world of dystopia. He directed Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
Oh, yeah.
Which was, is it the sequel to the reboot?
Hang on, there's Planet of the Apes, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, War for the Planet of the Apes. Is that the order?
I think there's Battle for the Rise of the Dawn of the Planet of the...
I actually think if he did the one where it was all the monkeys fighting one another with Jason Clarke in it, that was actually a pretty good one.
All right, no. The Rise of the Planet of the Apes was the original reboot, the one that starred James Franco and John Lithgow. Oh, right.
Okay.
And sort of Caesar was the ape's name, I think, wasn't it? Yeah, and that was sort of the origin story of the original intelligent ape.
Yeah, that was sort of more human-centric with the science lab.
Yeah.
And then it gets into forest warfare between monkeys.
Yeah, that's right. And then it takes a really weird turn after that. Anyway, Captive State. I was going to say the alien ship design in this kind of just looks like a lumpy rock. It's sort of very...
It could be a meteorite.
It could have been a meteorite,
It's just like, it's super slowed down for no apparent reason, just sort of like, I'm falling very slowly. Who know? I really don't know what this film's about at all, but it's kind of weird and dystopian and sci-fi, so it can't be all bad.
Kind of looks cool. See that next year in March. Okay, next film for you on this week's episode is... The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, which is a new film from Joel and Ethan Coen.
And I think Netflix original as well.
Yes, indeed. Their first film direct to Netflix. Why is that? Is it just because Netflix paid them a lot of money?
It would have had to have been a butt ton of money. It's probably the first big directors to go on Netflix that their last film wasn't a massive financial flop.
So the last film was Hail Caesar, was it?
I would imagine so, probably.
Which was great. I enjoyed the heck out of it, and I'm pretty sure it did relatively... maybe it didn't, actually. Maybe they are joining the Netflix graveyard. But this looks like it's returning to the Wild West, so they of True Grit fame as well. But this is going for more of the screwball, slightly comedic approach that their earlier films tended to have.
Yeah.
And I guess Hail Caesar as well was pretty screwball. Starring James Franco, who seems to be sort of a criminal who gets constantly caught and doesn't seem to die when they hang him. I sort of got the sense that
they had 4 people up on the gallows, and one of them starts crying, and James Franco turns to him and says, "First time here, eh?" And I'm just like, oh, this kind of, he's kind of that, I get into trouble all the time that I'm just so cool about it. I'm not sure if there's any of that. And who was the guy who was playing Buster Scruggs?
Buster Scruggs. Tim Blake Nelson, who was also in that film that's a retelling of Homer's Odyssey.
Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou?
Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou.
That's where I recognize him from.
Yes, he's one of the...
so he's like this, as opposed to all the other cowboys who wear these gritty tan and brown colors. He's coming through and he's wearing white.
Yeah.
And he's just like, everyone he rubs everyone the wrong way, and then he turns out he's an incredible gunsman.
Yes.
And Was Liam Neeson in this one as well?
Yeah, why not? Yes, he was.
Sure.
And Brendan Gleeson.
And Liam Neeson, Brendan Gleeson,
and Tim Blake Nelson.
Tim Blake Nelson. Yeah, so, I mean, I saw Liam Neeson and I'm just like, is this A Million Ways to Die in the West? Like, it kind of feels as though it's a comedy set in the West which has Liam Neeson in it. Hopefully it'll be a million times better than A Million Ways to Die in the West, because that was a bad film.
I think what this film is actually going for is like little vignettes with different stories across the Wild West landscape with a whole bunch of different characters in it. So, anyway, it looks like the kind of like beautifully, immaculately shot and beautifully scripted films that the Coens are sort of well known for. So whether or not the great Netflix experiment works out for them remains to be seen.
So this one kind of annoyed me in that it had these reviews like best screenplay at the... I'm like, if this is supposed to be going to Netflix, surely everyone should be able to watch it at the same time.
Yeah, I know.
What's with you taking this film and screening it to everyone else? I've paid my Netflix subscription. I should be able to tell you whether I thought it was the best scripted film that came out this year.
It's annoying that critics get the chance to watch these films before us producers get a chance to rip them off. It's really annoying.
It is very frustrating.
They should really give us like the first right of viewing so that we can like, well... We'll say that's like, we don't want to copy you, so we'll just check out and see what you're doing and make sure that none of the films that we have in production are similar to that. But really, it's just to steal the ideas.
Yeah.
Just want to take it before the trailer comes out.
Yeah.
That would be, I mean, how great would that be if we preempt trailers with our own trailer?
Yeah, that's the ultimate dream.
Like, the problem with here, we have to wait for the trailers to come out before we release our films.
Ultimately, the ultimate goal is to incept our way into the dreams of the people who are writing the screenplays so we can take the ideas before they've even had them.
Exactly.
But until that technology exists, then beating people to the trailer market would be great.
Maybe the 50-year anniversary of last week's film will be the... All right, on to the final trailer for this week's episode, which is The Beach Bum, directed by Harmony Korine, whatever, and starring Matthew McConaughey, Zac Efron, and other actors.
Isla Fisher,
Snoop
Dogg,
Jonah Hill, Martin Lawrence, and so on and so forth. Harmony Korine directed and wrote Spring Breakers, rather. Sort of film a couple of years back with James Franco playing sort of a wannabe hardcore drug dealer and dealing with the sort of spring break culture in Florida.
Yeah, so it had the very attractive Selena Gomez and Vanessa Hudgens.
Yep.
They wore bikinis for most of the films and committed crimes that young attractive girls probably wouldn't normally commit. And that was the premise of the film.
Yep.
It's beach culture with drugs and crime, which is exactly what this is.
Exactly what this is.
It is Matthew McConaughey wearing a Hawaiian shirt, and even Jimmy Buffett's in this. So anyone who is associated with smoking lots of weed, Snoop Dogg, and beach culture seems to get a cameo as they drive around in yachts in what looks like Miami, maybe.
This is the kind of trailer that has no real story attached to it. It's just like, look at this guy. He's kind of wacky, isn't he? He'll get up to many adventures because he's drug fueled and zany, and that's really it.
Selling an aesthetic rather than a story.
Yeah.
And I suppose the film is probably just about that character and how someone who is part of this culture interacts with the world and the kind of weird and wacky things that they get up to.
Yep.
So it also kind of feels a little bit like a teaser trailer as well. In that, I mean, this is the first trailer. They tend to not give away too much of those trailers, not to put unless normally the teaser trailers, if they feel as though the film is good, they'll definitely not try and give anything away.
Yep.
If they feel like it's bad, they're like, here are all the best bits of the film in our teaser trailer. Please get interested in it. We really need you to.
And you can see that next year in March as well. March seems to be the time for films. I guess we'll have to front load our release schedule.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we'd be going for award season, right? In February, we're going to get the best films out before then.
Yeah.
If they're releasing these ones in March, they obviously know that they're not going to win awards, right?
Yeah, that's right. Because the Academy forgets.
It does.
Yeah,
it's got such a short memory.
They only care about films that come out the previous month of the awards, and that's it. Because then it's just less work, really. All right, those are the trailers for this week's episode. But of course, before we can do anything with those, we're going to have to take a little walk over to the green room. All right, let's have a quick recap of this week's trailers.
We have a dystopian future sci-fi alien overlord film.
Great.
We have a screwball western action comedy.
Love it.
And we have a stylistic beach drug crime film.
Great. I believe it's my turn this week to choose. To be honest, they all sound great.
They condense really nicely down to little
really
packages.
well,
There's no split. I mean, action comedy, screwball, but like it fits so well within that there's no. Oh, it kind of has a little bit of sci-fi, and it can't. No, it is that. Those are the three defining keyword hashtags.
Yep. You know what? I think we need to follow in the footsteps of some very esteemed directors, and I think we're going to have to go for the Ballad of Buster Scruggs this week. Go for high class, the kind of like humor that wins awards instead of disgusts and irritates the Academy.
I think this is probably definitely the one film that people will talk about in 5 years' time.
Oh, for sure.
Most films we just want to put out, we want to grab some money and we want to run.
Yep.
And if they don't remember that, we put out a film called I'll Tell You the Tale of the Round Table Gang. It doesn't money because the money's in the bank account. That's all that matters.
How you said it doesn't money.
It doesn't money. Money's on the mind. I got my mind on my money and my money in my bank account. So it doesn't money at all. Because, we have it. And but
that's it. That's right.
This is the kind of film where people are just like, they're talking about Oh Brother, We're Out There. They're talking about the, possibly in 20 years' time, it is on the syllabus for the next sort of higher school certificate.
Maybe that's what we should go for. We should go for a film that will make it onto a high school syllabus at some point. It doesn't matter for which subject. It just needs to make it on there.
At the very least, some impressionable, 17-year-old kid is going to write an essay about it because they think that it speaks to them in a way that other films don't. It has a deeper meaning.
I remember, so I'm looking back now at the films that I had to watch in high school. So I had Dead Poets Society, Adaptation, we had Blade Runner as well. What else did we watch? We had, I think Philadelphia was one of them as well. Yeah. And I think that's it. So those are the kind of films that we're looking at. I mean, we could do just an insane blend.
I really think that the screwball, sharp-witted, but it definitely has a message.
Yeah.
It has a message about life,
yeah.
A grander scheme sort of thing going on there, but told in a way where the levity of the film really sort of masks the fact of how serious it is.
Perfect. All right, so I think the thing that always tends to happen with these screwball comedies, particularly with the Coen ones, is they always have a very distinct setting. So we've got this film in the Wild West. We've got the film that they did, which was where they're sort of part of a big financial company. I've forgotten the name of it now, but it's actually quite a good film.
Burn After Reading?
No. This was like...
The Big Lebowski.
No, this was a film sort of earlier in their
Miller's
career.
Crossing.
No, it's it's got like a name like the Frabtabulous Contraption of
True Grit. Brother, We're Out There.
You're getting closer.
No Country for Old Men.
No, you won't even know it. Fargo. That was it. No, that's not it.
I was about to say, that's probably the only Coen brothers film that I've missed so far.
Raising Arizona, you missed as well.
I did, yeah.
And you've also missed the most important one of them all that no one has seen except me, apparently. The Hudsucker Proxy. Which is great. It was all about like big business and finance and like a company that invented something that no one knew what it was, but somehow made money anyway.
All right. We've got to steer clear of Wall Street. We were there quite recently.
We were, yep. Obviously can't do the Wild West because we've been there. Can't do beach stuff either because that seems to be like a market cornered by Harmony Korine. What else is available?
I don't know why I'm thinking of this, but what about like in Cape Kennedy in the Space Center during the 60s as they're trying to like invent rockets?
Yeah.
But it's just the guys in the boffins in their rooms coming up with the diagrams and the ideas.
This is great. This I'm getting shades of like Dr. Strangelove here as well in the sort of war room 60s aesthetic.
So you have people who are sort of full of their own importance, but when they start taking things like not taking things seriously, like when they're talking about what if a meteorite goes through and they're just like, coming up with the ideas, but they're also kind of like throwing those yellow 2B pencils at one another and just sort of like, these are the idiots that are responsible for the greatest accomplishment of mankind.
Well, what if it was a competing company then? So instead of it being about NASA, it's maybe like a couple of blocks down the road, there's like an alternative company who are trying to do the exact same thing that NASA is doing, only they're trying to do it much cheaper.
Maybe. I kind of like the idea, like the Coen brothers tend to set their things in reality, like you have this sense of, and everyone knows that NASA did this. I suppose it's kind of a little bit like Hidden Figures. It's the
True, yeah.
It's the hidden story behind NASA that people don't know.
Figures.
Yeah, maybe there is a company but we're focusing on the NASA guys.
Yeah, yeah.
And at a certain point, NASA has to go, well, actually, these competing guys down, like we're going to have to bring them in to solve these things because we don't actually know what we're doing.
Okay, great. So, so we're talking about, like, these are the guys actually in charge of big important missions, or are they like a side project?
No, they're definitely the guys who are just like, there is a problem where if space debris hits this thing, everyone in there is screwed. How do you solve it? And it's just these guys just like coming up with...
Okay.
Like they're actually intelligent guys who are actually coming up with real solutions to the problem, but they're also kind of like socially awkward idiots who just like I don't trust you this to be in your hands at all.
So are they? Can we make it so that they're all kind of like against each other as well? So like ideas are coming up, but they don't really trust each other to sort of go through with them. And should some of the ideas be just completely ridiculous as well? Like, what about a giant umbrella that pops out?
Yeah, possibly. It's like, why don't we make the outside of it like a bouncy castle so it just bounces off? It's like...
What if we made the outside of it like 20 centimeters thick, if not more?
Yeah, exactly. So it's sort of spitballing, and I'm sure there's like these historical events, like you can find these books like Hidden Figures, or even like there was a show recently called The Bletchley Circle, which was about the women code breakers who were inside Bletchley Park during, like, there's all these stories about the people you didn't realize were involved.
Yep.
I'm sure we can go to a bookstore and find the biography of some guy who was behind the scenes at NASA inventing these sorts of things.
Well, I have an idea. You know how, I guess, general knowledge dictates that NASA was actually responsible for a lot of technologies that we use.
Yeah, like Velcro.
Day-to-day Velcro, aluminium foil.
Actually, they didn't invent Velcro. They just found a use for it. It was... Anyway, sure.
It doesn't matter. So what if these guys are responsible for, like, that particular program, but then part of what they're doing, or part of the end result, is that they come up with this product that, like, everyone just uses at that point forward, but it was, like, kind of an accidental discovery.
I think they're possibly responsible for also remonetizing NASA.
Yes.
In a way where NASA spends billions of dollars on this technology, and these are the guys that are going, now that we're not using it with NASA, how do we market it to the general public?
Yeah, exactly.
As something they could possibly use.
So maybe that's their, like, maybe that's their job at NASA. Maybe their job at NASA is to, like, the mission's done, we've got all this new technology, you guys now have to figure out how we can actually recoup our costs and, like, market this stuff or components of this stuff to, like, the world so that we can actually make some money off it.
So they're kind of screwball inventor marketing guys.
That's right, yeah.
And that they're like, oh, well, you know, we kind of invented some of this stuff, but we're not really marketing guys, but to keep our jobs, we have to turn into sales pitch guys who can sell this stupid technology.
Yeah, they've got to live up to the popularity of Velcro and aluminium foil, and they've got to create something new and widespread and amazing that everyone will use based on stuff that they developed for the moon missions.
Not that we're casting yet, but there's a perfect... J.K. Simmons is one of these guys.
Oh, for sure.
He definitely is. And I just like that 60s aesthetic.
Yep.
It's kind of a little bit washed out. It's kind of a little bit amber. They're wearing light blue suits.
Yep.
They have weird stylized mustaches.
Big glasses.
Yeah. I think Soderbergh did The Informant, but there's elements of The Informant in here as well,
absolutely.
I think.
All right, great. So we've got J.K. Simmons playing one of them.
There's definitely three of them, I think.
There's got to be a three. I'm getting a Three Stooges kind of a feel.
Exactly.
Like a scissors, paper, rock style. One beats the other but doesn't beat the other, and so on and so forth. So we've got J.K. Simmons playing, we'll call him The Rock.
Yeah, sure. I actually like rock, paper, and scissors. I'm thinking we cast someone from the world of popular music.
Yep.
Just in the sort of way where, your Harry Styles shows up in that Christopher Nolan World War II one, whatever that was called. Dunkirk.
Dunkirk, yeah.
And I'm just like, and they can make a serious leap into acting. I'm not sure. Is there any...
It does require a good director, though.
It does. I mean, and we'll only get the best.
So you say popular music, and the problem here is I don't know any popular music.
Yeah, neither do I. And again, I think we cast Ed Sheeran at one point as well, because that's the only person that I can think of.
There was a trailer that we avoided talking about the other day about the Abominable Snowman, the Yeti film, the animated film. And like halfway through the trailer, it comes up with like the name of someone from One Direction or something, and then like the name of the song that he's singing. We would just cast that guy. I'll look it up now.
Maybe why don't we do Harry Styles?
Harry Styles?
He was kind of all right in Dunkirk.
He was pretty good.
So this could be like a bit more screen time for him, a bit more serious acting chops. We're probably going to have to he's tattooed everywhere, right? So he's like we're gonna have to have some reason for him. Maybe he's broken both of his arms in an accident, or we can just put big casts on either side of his arms.
What did they do for Dunkirk? Did he get all his tattoos after Dunkirk? Was it like the big?
Oh no, maybe they CG'd them out. We don't have budget for CG in this one.
Okay, this is gonna be one of those low budget screwball comedies, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's still nicely made, but it's definitely not big flying spaceships. Big action sequences. Yep. It's it's actually shot on film.
Coen Brothers style.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, cool. Great. Now we just need I guess we need a third one. We should cast a female. I don't want to do a whole like male thing.
It could be. Yep.
Who? Oh, I mean, I immediately thought of Isla Fisher, but she's been done. What about Vanessa Hudgens?
It could be. Oh, when you said Isla Fisher, I immediately went to Amy Adams. Because, in my mind, they could just swap between roles. One of them, they're both attractive redheads. I think one of them is probably a bit more serious about acting, and the other one does a little bit more comedy. But
one does ING commercials, and the other one does films,
One does Sacha Baron Cohen, and the other... and the other one has an Academy Award on her shelf, so...
Yes.
I think Amy Adams would be
would be quite good.
So you have J.K. Simmons, Amy Adams, and Harry Styles as the sort of
the trio,
the think tank who came up with these inventions, and now to keep their jobs and keep relevance within the organization has to market essentially what were space inventions to the general public.
Exactly. I think we need a. Okay, I know what the invention is as well. The moon hopper. So the moon hopper is just like a giant inflatable ball with handles on it.
But, I mean, would they have ever used that?
Yes, as astronaut training.
On the moon?
Astronaut training to, simulate low gravity and a low gravity bouncy environment.
I reckon we go with 3 inventions.
3,
so,
okay.
So maybe Harry Styles is just this is the one that I want to do.
Yep.
And I would say J.K. Simmons came up with an incredibly fine mesh.
Yep.
That as asteroids came and hit the spacecraft, it hits the fine mesh and breaks up into tiny little rocks. Yep. And he was just and now he's just well, I'm going to take this fine mesh and use it in the everyday life.
Good
it's
idea,
how do I do it? Do I do it in screen doors? And you see birds fly into the mesh and just get diced. It's what about protective windscreen? He's just I don't know how to market my invention, which was fantastic for saving the lives of astronauts.
Yep.
But now I have to be able to market it to the general public, and I just don't know how to do it.
Okay, so to reuse my moonhopper idea, what Harry Styles invented was a giant inflatable bouncy cushioning system that inflated and enveloped the spacecraft so that if anything came at it, it would just bounce straight off.
And I mean, I suppose history will say that that sort of moonhopper toy is actually quite popular with kids.
Exactly.
And what's Amy Adams?
Amy Adams. Okay, well let's brainstorm here. How else could you protect? I mentioned earlier the giant umbrella approach.
Yeah.
Which would just sort of come out of the cone of the rocket and sort of just open up and kind of protect the whole thing.
There is a thing that they do where there's ceramic tiles all over the tops of the spacecraft that absorb the heat, and when they are at a certain temperature, they peel off. Yep. So maybe she's just left with this giant mountain of ceramic tiles that are incredibly heat absorbent, and also disintegrate when they get so hot because you want to dissipate the heat. And she's just how the hell do I market this to the general population? I have no idea.
That's a good one because it has no other
usage. It really
does.
Unless it's at superheated planet atmosphere re-entering temperatures, they're just very ugly beige looking tiles.
All right, I like it. I also like that there's a specific specific threshold as well, where if you go slightly over that threshold, they just disintegrate as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you buy these tiles for heat management, but if you're not carefully watching how much heat is being applied to them, they just disintegrate.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got the 3 kind of actual usage or uses of these original inventions. We've got one which gets turned into the space hopper, I guess. What happens to the other 2?
I think the other 2 are just failed.
Okay.
Literally in a way where they try their hardest,
Yep.
and they kind of ridicule Harry Styles for.
So maybe he's the dumbest of the group.
He is the dumbest of the group, but his naivete that sort of just goes, here's this thing that we can now market to kids as a toy, and like, no, we spent like just coming up with a rubber that was of the right vulcanization to be cushioning enough in zero gravity. This has been to the moon and back. It has protected people's lives. You can't just have kids sit on it and bounce around.
Yeah, I love the idea that like while J.K. Simmons and Amy Adams are like busily prepare like running their hands over their like respective inventions in the lab, Harry Styles just like bounces in on it and goes like, "Hey guys, look what I invented!"
Exactly,
and they're just like, "What the hell is
and
this?"
so that becomes then that we transition into this sort of story of them going around and then marketing this toy. And then I mean, there's got to be a rise and a fall. There's got to be like ebbs and flows of their success and failure within sort of both the organization of NASA and their own business of launching the product, and you know, going back and trying to go, well, also if you buy these space hoppers, we'll throw in these ceramic tiles and mesh.
Well,
it's like, why do you need the ceramic tiles and mesh?
I think what needs to happen is both the other characters need to like launch their products first.
Yeah.
And then both of them are followed by like horrific deaths through misusage of the respective products, massive recalls. It's like a shameful day for NASA when the recall of the ceramic tiles goes in because people are using them in pizza ovens and they're melting and disintegrating into the pizzas.
Who would have known that the dust it produces is like
it's poisonous,
somewhat poisonous. Maybe it's like a sleeping powder. So you just have all these people who are just like cook this stuff in the ovens. They eat the pizza and they go to drive somewhere and they just like fall asleep, and then just,
and we can have like classic footage of a car driving off a cliff as well, because that's also never not funny.
Yeah, and it's 60s style, sort of those big sort of 60s style cars.
With a huge explosion at the end as well.
I like that. It always kind of feels as though then, well, are they only going to market these these things as tablets in the same sort of accidental way that Viagra has that sort of side effect of
Probably.
going? Yeah,
it could be a thing like later on in the future they suddenly rediscover this tile and discover that it has amazing properties for sleeping.
Exactly, it's a sleep problem. Yeah,
and then maybe like J.K. Simmons as well with his mesh. Initially, he's like, we're going to make screen doors out of them. And the problem is, like, they're so transparent but so fine that birds are going through them.
Flying through
and
them.
just, like, disintegrating.
They are so strong.
Of blood and guts.
And feathers. They've just been cubed as they go through. Maybe that's what he does. Yeah. Maybe it becomes like a cheese cubing device.
That's right, but only in the future.
Only in the future.
Only way into the future.
Way in the future, he figured out a way. It's like, this actually slices through vegetables, kind of like a mandolin, sort of like...
That's right.
And you see him on, like, the infomercials.
Exactly, yes. As seen on TV.
Exactly.
A product that can slice through anything. You'll get it to slice through a shoe, and then the next bit will be like slicing through a tomato as well.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter what it is, it'll go through anything. And then it'll have like as developed by NASA on the bottom as well.
Exactly.
Okay, that's great. But like in the context of the film, in the period of time that we sort of have it in, that can be like a post-credit sequence where it's like flash forward way into the future.
Exactly.
And both of them are also enjoying success while the space hopper is condemned to the annals of toy history.
Yeah, I have not seen a space hopper since the mid-90s.
I don't know where the idea came from, but anyway, so in the context of our film, the space hopper obviously wins because like kids love it, and it becomes a craze for a short time as well.
Yeah,
even adults are getting
I actually
on board.
like that idea, the idea that it becomes a craze and they're on the top of the world, and then just like the public is so fickle that it's 1972 that we were on the moon just 3 short years ago, and suddenly that no one cares about space anymore.
Yeah,
the space hopper is popular for 6 months, and it's just like the overarching lesson, the one that the people will come back to, is just how fickle society is, and how it's, you can catch the wave, but like all waves, there are peaks and troughs and crests and rises and falls.
And I know how to end the film on a message note as well. So while we see, I think the last sort of sequence of the film is sort of like we're a couple of years past the point of the space hoppers entry into the market, and there's just like across the street in garages everywhere, they're just deflated space hoppers. Everyone's moved on to the next big thing, which is pogo sticks, I assume.
Yeah.
Much more stick action than you get out of a space hopper. But the message is that NASA has been able to fund the next Apollo mission, which is Apollo 13.
Oh, interesting. And they need these inventive people to come back
That's right, exactly.
And they find meaning again.
And that's the heartfelt, wonderful ending to the film. Never mind that they're working on a doomed mission to the moon.
I mean, First Man is a trailer that's out at the moment, and we have Apollo 13, so chronologically and sort of stylistically, it sits perfectly between these two films.
Absolutely works. And then, post-credit sequence, J.K. Simmons in the future with his new, amazing mesh slicing system, and Amy Adams
working for Big Pharma.
Exactly. All right. I think we only need one thing for this film.
That is the name.
And that is
for
the
it.
name. What are we going to call it?
It's interesting. It has to have some sort of space element.
Yep.
The few words that I sort of like spitballing,
Yep.
or drawing board. You said like as seen on TV,
Yep.
or as made by NASA.
Yep.
These are sort of like the concepts that I kind of think need to come through with a film title. Like,
I like the idea. I like spitballing and drawing board. If we can make those spacey in some way, that would be probably ideal. Particularly spitballing.
I think you're thinking of Spaceballs. And that's why you're getting very space elements
No,
of it.
I know. I want it to be space elemental, so maybe we take that and space it up.
So could I also have the sort of like rocket connotations as well?
Yep, I like that.
Like maybe afterburners?
Yes.
Because it's kind of like what happens
Yes.
to them after they've burnt brightly.
Yeah, yeah.
What's their career afterwards? It's got the elements of NASA's space rockety.
The Afterburners.
The Afterburners.
So maybe this is the name of that group. They call themselves the Afterburners because, after the mission is done, they have to figure out how to burn all this equipment that they've accrued.
I like it.
I like it. The Afterburners. Brilliant. All right. I think that's a wrap.
I think you're right.
All right, housekeeping. As per usual, we are online at moviefilmstudios.net, where you can find all of our previous episodes, our bios, and other information. And of course, Mafusa Widada, our database of films that we've created on this podcast. Search Facebook for Movie Film Studios and join the community, where we post clues as to the trailers that we've watched in upcoming episodes. Yeah, good luck with the Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
I did an all Google Translate one last week, and a lot more participation because people can punch that in there.
Indeed.
I think Beach Bum will be easy enough to do with emojis, and Captive State. Who knows? We'll see.
We'll see. Do it in an alien language or something. We are on Podbean, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and any other place that you get podcasts from. 2 bits of further housekeeping for you. Both Isaac and I will be performing in the Rat King Fairy Tale, a completely improvised show playing as part of the Sydney Fringe Festival on September 22nd and 23rd. So go search the Sydney Fringe Festival website for tickets.
Type in Rat King or Fairy Tale, it should come up. And that's in Marrickville at the Factory Theatre.
Indeed. And the second bit is we're actually approaching 1 year.
1 year.
On this podcast. Which also equals the amount of people listening at the moment.
That's right. So this would be episode 51. Next week, 52.
Yes.
There are, in case you were following along at home, 52 weeks in a year.
Yes.
And we've definitely not missed a week at all.
Absolutely
in the
not.
last 12 months. We're going to do a thing where we are asking you to post on the Facebook group your favourite movie or the trailer of your favourite movie.
Yep.
So if you can go to YouTube, copy the link for the trailer of your favourite movie and put it in there.
Yep.
We're going to do something special with all of those trailers. Hopefully we'll have more than 2. More than 2's enough.
More than 2.
We do 3 most weeks.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if you can do that, if you want to just link that into the Facebook group with your name, and we'll give you a shout out when we go through it on 1 year spectacular.
Indeed. And as per usual with this show, we will only watch those trailers just before we record. So obviously nothing in this show is pre-planned, obviously. And we will continue doing that for the 52nd episode as well. So we're not going
to infinity and beyond, as they say.
Indeed.
Although 52 is not really as high as infinity. To 52 and beyond?
Yeah.
Doesn't really have the same ring to it.
but it's enough to get us out of copyright infringement.
It's true.
Let's go with that. And I think that's it.
All that remains is to thank you again for listening this week. I've been Isaac.
And I've been AJ.
Roll credits.
Watch when